Today's video is about the Beastlord class in Everquest 2, and what I'm going to do is go over the development history of the Beastlord in Everquest games and go over the melee and water abilities, taming, I'll show you how to tame, pet variety, a few pets I've tamed along my way, as well as alternate advancement abilities for the Beastlord as well as the Warder. Now, in EverQuest 1, the Beastlord was introduced in the Shadows of Luckland expansion, and it was a great addition for me as far as gameplay goes because you could actually choose to be a group-oriented class. You had good group buffs, or you could be a good solo class. Obviously, in EverQuest, soloing was kind of a premium, and I enjoyed just having my pet and doing a little bit of melee, and how pet mechanics worked was just a lot of fun to me. Unfortunately, you were limited by races. You were limited to only 2 races that could play as Shaman, and whichever race you picked also affected which pet you had. If you're a barbarian, you would get a wolf pet and a wolf pet only. If you were a troll, you got a alligator or crocodile pet, and you only had 1 pet for the entire duration as far as just the regular game went. Now, maybe that's changed, I don't know, but as of the time I was playing back when it came out, your race was limited to 1 type of pet. So what's really nice about EverQuest 2 is, besides having a much better variety of races to choose from, being able to be a Dark Elf Beastlord is just awesome in my opinion. You also get to choose what pets you use and go out and tame pets and customize them in the alternate advancement tree. Now, my favorite pet by far is the wolf, but I have tamed a few other different pets. I've got a bear, crocodile, a bat, and I've really just used my wolf pet because it's my favorite. But the bear does have he appears to have some tanking abilities, like he has a self-regeneration type of spell. But what's cool is each individual pet has its own AA tree. So the customization is pretty much off the charts here, because besides having AAs that apply to all of your pets as well as yourself, each pet you have has its own AA tree, so you can get really customized as far as what kind of pet you want to use and the situation that you're in, whether it's soloing, grouping, or if you're just grinding easy mobs, if you're trying to do some elite mobs, maybe you want to use a tank pet like the bear. But it's just really cool to me how you have so much customization available to you for each pet you have. So it's definitely just a good little bit of customization there. I really got to give Variant or Sony Online or Daybreak Games, whatever they call themselves these days, a lot of credit for the options that they give you as a player. And you can shrink your pet, because by default your pet is pretty huge, and it's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, but at times it's definitely advantageous to have a smaller pet, especially when you're a cramped dungeon. The crocodile is pretty cool. When I played EQ1, I tended to play trolls as my shaman, just because, or as my Beastlord, because they had a croc pet. I loved that croc pet, but for the time being, I'm definitely partial to my wolf, and I'm, kind of interested to find out what I can get as far as other pets go, because, like, the bat is kind of interesting, but not really, I don't know. I'm sure it has its uses. I'll have to do a little playing and a little experimentation to figure out what a bat does. But anyway, so you tame, and when you tame a new pet, it works a lot like it did in World of Warcraft. Only all you have to do here is get it below 50% life, and then you can start taming it. And if you're taming a regular mob, close to your level, that kind of stuff, I'm sure it's quite a bit more difficult if you're going for like some type of exotic mob where maybe it has a knockback or an interrupt ability, or maybe it just kicks out a lot of damage and you have to have somebody healing you while you're trying to tame it. But as far as I can tell, just normal animals are pretty easy to tame. I haven't really had any trouble doing it, but again, it's just really cool to have that customization open to you as an option. Now, when you're playing a Beast Lord, you don't have ranged attacks. You're mainly sticking to melee attacks. I do have a few abilities that have a little bit of range. I usually just use them to pull, but for the most part, you're going to do a lot more damage if you get into melee range and actually fight. Now, what I'm moving around here is called the advantage bar, and the top bar is what's called savagery, and it fills up just like a rage bar for, like, say, a warrior type class. And as it fills up, different abilities open up to you, and those abilities do quite a bit of damage. They're extremely useful to cast, so you definitely want to make use of them. Now, I've actually moved a few of my favorite ones down to the main hotbar I use to where I can get to them quickly, because mechanically I'm not sure. I got to do a little more research on it, because it seems like as your rage bar fills up, the icons will pop up like saying you can use it, but if you don't hit it quick enough, sometimes they'll gray out. And I'm not sure what causes them to gray out, but all I know is I put them on my lower hotbar to where I can get to them really quick, and I'm going to fight here in a minute, and you'll see where it grays out before I can actually use the spell. But like I said, they are very good abilities, and it really gives you a new element to gameplay, to where it's not just mashing buttons and using the same attacks over and over. You have to be pretty well on it to catch those pop-ups on time. Like, I just missed it, but now I got it. But as you can tell, it does a lot of damage. It's really good. I mean, as far as a melee class goes, he has some backstab slash flanking type abilities, which I'm really not into backstab type gameplay, but it works pretty well just as straight up melee. But what you do have to do is learn to manage your aggro, because against tougher mobs, like, these guys aren't tough. They're pretty close to my level, pretty easy to take down. But if you're attacking, let's just say, an elite type mob, or a mob several levels above you, uh, you can't let your pet try and do all of the damage. But if you jump in and hit it really hard, you're going to pull aggro. You do have an ability called evade, which evade is really, really useful, but it's not going to completely wipe your aggro. So you definitely need to make sure on your timing. You might go in and hit it really hard and hit evade and then just back out for a while. Or sometimes you can just let your pet tank for a little while, let it build up aggro, and then jump in and finish it off. But either way, as a Beast Lord, your main source of DPS is going to be from you, and it's going to be melee, which is perfectly fine by me. I just like to be able to melee and not have a bunch of downtime. I was playing my Shadow Knight. Now, he's higher level. He's 42, and I love him. I mean, it's a great build for a class, or great concept Everquest 2 has for the Shadow Knight, but he wasn't quite as good as far as dishing out damage. I mean, I understand it is a plate class. It is a bit limited because you can wear plate, and which means you are expected to be able to tank, and it usually means you do less damage. And that's what I found. I found the Beast Lord by far does more damage. And actually, out of all of the classes I've played, I would say the Beast Lord is the easiest to just walk up to a mob and just flat out destroy it. I mean, you saw I was just walking up to those gorillas and just in a couple shots, really, maybe 2 attacks was all it took. So it's definitely, as far as DPS goes, there is no lack of it. And because you're a scout, it really helps, because you have stuff like sneak and track. Now, in the alternate advancement tree, I've got quite a few points in one tree, but the rest of them I've left pretty open, just because I'm still trying to get acclimated and figure out how each ability is going to work and how necessary I might feel like those abilities are going to be later on. Because you know how it is in MMO, as you get higher in levels, usually what happens is you become weaker relative to the mobs. Sometimes your pet becomes weaker relative to the mobs. Generally, in EverQuest games, the pet is pretty crazy good from start to finish. There are some low points sometimes, but I imagine in EverQuest 2, the pet is going to be pretty powerful for the duration. And I haven't gone on the forums. I haven't, talked to other people. I haven't, listened to anybody's, whining about class balance. I'm just really just forming my own opinions and playing my way. But the introductory tree, I just really just went down one bar and filled up pet tanking abilities. Now this is where I feel like you're going to get a big boost using alternate advancement abilities. Like I just pumped up evade because, like I was talking about earlier, evade is really important against tougher mobs. It allows you to kick out more DPS but not take as much damage. And I picked up this ability right here just because on top of it being an attack which does damage, it also gives you a power boost for you and your pet. So I just figured if I'm gonna, put in a lot of points and at least take a higher up ability, it'd be a good one to get. Now this tree is just like a lot of other classes. You have some very general abilities, and it gradually, as you put tons and tons of points into it, it gradually narrows down to really customizing your character to how you want to play. And most of the skills really just pertain to like scout, a little bit of DPS, a little bit of evasion, that kind of stuff. It's really once you get down to the end of it where you find the real custom stuff. And this is obviously the pet alternate advancement abilities tree. I love how each pet has its own tree. It's just, that's such a great idea. I really like it. I definitely got to give credit to the old development team who put it in. But I think probably my favorite ability just to the scout class is tracking, because in a lot of quests when you're trying to find the target mob, let's say you got to kill 10 gorillas, sometimes it's hard to find them. You pull up track and it doesn't really have any filtering options for the Beastlord, but once you do find what you're looking for, you just click on it and it creates this little trail that you can follow to find the target. So it helped me a ton. I was doing a quest and I'm here in Butcher Block and I had to find these anemones that are underwater, and I did it on a couple different characters and it was always a real pain to do, but when you have track, it's all kinds of easy. But I can definitely say if you want a class, let me just say this: it's not a free to play option. You have to buy it. You can either subscribe or you can buy it outright. Um, if I was going to pick any class or anywhere to put station cash into, it would definitely be the Beastlord, because it's such a cool class. It has lots of depth, and it seems to be pretty powerful. I don't let balance affect my gaming decisions too much, but it's just a really good all around class. And I have a feeling this may take over my Necromancer spot as my favorite class in EQ2. But anyway, that's my video for today, and thanks for watching.